isn't always easy for artists, especially in today's financial climate. This episode of Grá-phite is all about staying inspired even when there's bills to pay, and how government reform can help towards keeping our creative culture alive. We chat with our first ever guest to the podcast, Ian Fay, an illustrator and character artist from Drogheda, Co.Louth, about his work and life as an artist, as well as his experience of the Basic Income for the Arts pilot scheme.
Hi, I'm Becky.
Agus Díodh is Mischief Aisha.
And this is Grá-phite, where we have honest chats about the ups, downs and everyday reality of being an artist in Ireland. Hello everybody.
Hello and welcome back to episode 3 of Grá-phite. We have had the last 2 episodes with just ourselves, but this time we have treated you to our very first guest to the pod, Ian Fay.
There is a few instances where we have some technical issues with Ian's audio, but it doesn't last very long and we do resolve it, so don't worry about that. Otherwise, on to the episode.
Enjoy. Okay. So, welcome to the podcast, Ian. We know you well, but for our listeners who may not, please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name's Ian Fay. I'm an Irish artist based in Drogheda, and I do all sorts. I do a lot of character art and commissions, and I sell prints of my work, and I also have recently gotten into 3D and sculpture.
Fantastic, lovely.
What's your favourite sort of thing? Like, what's your guilty pleasure art?
Oh, I mean, something that'll, I think that gets a rise out of like a friend or my other half, Lucy.
Yeah.
You know, if it's like maybe drawing like one of her characters for her, but like
gifts for people,
you know,
kind of.
Yeah, just that's comfortable for me.
That's nice.
That's good.
Me too. I love doing that too.
Yeah, Becky's not quite as much of a wind-up merchant as you can be yourself, but it's all good. I love doing that as well.
Never been called such a thing.
Oh, sure, you know. So there's a first time for everything, Ian.
Well behaved.
Exactly. Oh, you're the best behaved in the whole of the Irish art scene. So, so basically, we're going to get into a couple of questions about yourself, and you can let us know a wee bit more about you and your work then. So what are your biggest influences on your work outside of visual arts?
Outside of visual arts, games, I'd say, because like when I was young, it was always games that I wanted to do. I wanted to work in games in some manner, form. Never got around to it, but Street Fighter would be a huge one. Because I've always adored the character designs, and I've been playing this since I was a little child with my brother, and I know the designs and that always just sung to me.
Yeah, you can really tell that in your work, actually. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other than that, mostly the games, to be honest, and anime, I guess, as well.
Oh yeah. That's a big one for me.
Growing up watching Dragon Ball Z, that had a severe impact on my brain. So
yeah, I think when you grow up in the 90s in Ireland, we only had a select amount of anime we were exposed to. As well.
Like I know a lot of Europeans got
Moon,
to grow up with like Sailor Moon and that, but we had Dragon Ball and Pokemon. That was about it.
Exactly. Maybe a wee bit of Digimon here and there, like, but mostly the Dragon Ball.
Or like Totally Spies.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Totally Spies. That was great.
Yeah. And do you have any pre-work rituals that you do to get into the zone? Like, do you like candles, or do you put music on, or anything like that?
Watch Dragon Z.
No, well, there's a lot of struggle. There's a lot of fighting myself. I don't know if I give off this impression, but I can be very stubborn and belligerent, and I prefer to aim that outwards. I don't like when I have to deal with it myself, and a lot of like my mornings is just kind of trying to force myself to sit down and actually start drawing in the first place. Once I start, I'm fine, but it's just that initial, sit down, behave, get working is the big struggle. So it's not so much there's a ritual as a fight with myself every day.
That's part of it. I'm the same completely. I find it very hard to get over that bump, but once you get into it, you're flying. And that's good. Radio. Let's see. So, how does your creative process evolve from the idea stage through to a finished project or product?
Do you have like
lots of iteration. Like
Yeah.
I sometimes I will have a very strong idea at the beginning, but mostly I kind of find it on the page
Dash it
or
out.
screen, I should say, and I just kind of redraw and resize and paint over and just kind of keep going until it feels right.
Very fluid.
I really should, like, I'd probably, save a lot more time if I was a bit more mindful of it, but that's just the process as it's worked for me. Like, it's just a lot of just iteration and just redrawing and until it feels like what I want it to look like.
Do you think that's you comparing yourself to how you perceive other people's workflow, though?
Well, yeah, because like I've seen other people draw who can just kind of
They have a very like this stage.
Yeah, they
this
can
stage.
get the idea out pretty quick. Like, and I knew one guy in college who could almost kind of project the image in his mind onto the page and kind of almost like sort of like he was tracing it. That's never really been me. I need to get the marks down and then slowly carve away in. Like, I work on a grey screen and I kind of use
like you
dark
chisel
grey
it out.
and light grey, and I
Yeah.
kind of push and pull and carve until it looks
And that's probably
where I want it to look.
a mix of like the way your brain works in 3D as well.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Because Jake,
Well, yeah,
my
the
brother,
3D is new for me. Like, I only started 3D in November, and I only started printing the stuff and like thinking more seriously about it in March. So, I think that's part of why the 3D felt more natural, is because
Yeah.
as a byproduct of how I draw.
your transition, yeah.
Yeah, you use a lot of values
Yeah.
and stuff. I love the way in your work where you start in the black and white and then add colour at the end. I actually never done that before. I don't really have a super formal education myself, and when I noticed that you did that, I tried it myself recently, and it really actually changes how things work.
It's the tones of
Yeah,
everything.
the values
The
and
values.
stuff.
that's
Yeah, the
word I was
values.
looking for.
That's literally what I'm working on at the minute. I'm doing a course on a painting course, and it's the beginning part is kind of nailing down and working on values again, and doing all these exercises where you break down like a scene from a movie into like 3 values and just like focus in on like where's the
I've heard
where
about
are you
this, yeah.
supposed to be looking, how does it all work, how do you make it as readable as possible from like a very small, like if you're looking at it as a tiny little thumbnail.
Yeah.
And that I'm exhausted. It's like those exercises are so challenging for me because I need to like really, really, really tightly focus. But I find that I usually when I do courses like this, or if I'm doing like the study at night, and usually it might be hard on the day, but I find that I'll wake up the next day and I literally I'll wake up from a dream where I've been drawing. I'll wake up from a dream where I've been kind of figuring stuff out. So obviously overnight my brain is doing some of the work for me, which is nice.
Yeah.
Logging
but,
all those files in for
the
for
black and
use.
white helps kind of me make sense of stuff.
Yeah.
And then coloring it after, just kind of like separating the steps makes it a bit more manageable.
Yeah, I see that in your work. You can see your like from your sort of works in progress pics online, where you've sort of been figuring out the shape, and as you said, carving things in and stuff, and like maybe changing the pose slightly if you're not happy with it, or facial expressions and stuff. I've noticed you changing stuff like that.
Yeah, that's kind of why I like sharing the process too, because I get to show like the differences in the changes. Like, it's not like it ever ends up as just the finished piece.
Yeah.
Like, it's a step-by-step process and lots of fighting.
Definitely. And
Like
I think
find
a
it
lot
very
of people,
inspiring.
yeah, same.
Inspiring, yeah.
I find it better to see that someone,
Struggles a wee
of a
bit.
very high skill level is struggling as well, like even with things like, posing and stuff. Some people can just bash, as you said, like your friend from college could just bash out something straight onto the page and as if it was coming from his mind. I find myself like I've got like 600 layers just on the sketch. You know what I mean?
I do the same thing.
It's something that sometimes you do need to work through those things, and I find it keeps me sort of more engaged with a project when I am able to sort of work through it on a page rather than having the idea like ahead of time and then going into it and maybe then it not turn out
Being
like I had actually
disappointed.
thought. Yeah, because I have a very vivid imagination, but sometimes I just can't get that onto the page unless I really do the work.
Why
So-
will my hands not do what my brain wants?
exactly, help me. So
Oh my god, no! I'm the opposite. If I sit down and within like 2 hours I've like drawn the whole thing and it's come out like how I wanted, or there wasn't much of a challenge, I'm like, fantastic.
Yeah.
This is wonderful. This is one of the rare good days.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
finally a bit of relief.
Oh, I know.
It doesn't happen often, but when it does happen, like,
I know, it's
oh
great.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
the
love
stuff. Something hit well today.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like ahead of something. Yeah, no, I definitely think having your process images, like when you put those online, it does help people. I believe anyway. You know.
Especially people who would like admire or look up to your work, like, oh right, they are human. That's
Yeah,
great.
because a lot of the time you see people and like the likes of, that's why I really like Loish. Her work's the same in that you can see, you know, she shows her process throughout of it. You know, she does those little like stop motion type things almost.
Yeah, and I think that's especially more. That's even more important now with all the generative AI slop.
Absolutely.
To see that like people are, you know,
The
like it's
human
step by step, and that
factor.
like, you know, it's not always going to look, you know, like a pretty finished piece. It's gonna look like trash for a while.
Yeah, and it is a struggle to get through that. Like I think with the Gen AI stuff, like a lot of people are like, oh, it's like an easy way to finish things up or tidy things up or whatever, and it's like, well, but that's not really art, you know. The art
No,
is the
it's not
struggle.
your choices,
Yeah, exactly.
not your work.
Choosing what to refine and what to leave.
Exactly.
As is.
I love
Yeah.
actually seeing like little mistakes or like little quirks about, like
Little, like,
Becky always
scribbles
notices how I draw hands or whatever, you know, things like that. I like seeing a wee like, oh, they didn't like colour that in, there's like a little pixel missing there. You know, I enjoy seeing those little flaws because it is human. You
That's
know?
it. It's your voice, like your like even flaws and all. Like with me too. Like it's like whatever little flaws or issues I have, kind of adds to the overall texture and like flavor of like, you know, what I draw, and helps it be recognizable in one way or another. Like there's plenty of like, you know, huge name artists that I love who might have like these one or two little quirks. So like, you know, maybe they could tighten that up if they, you know, really focus. But like it would take away from something. Like there's,
Yeah.
But also,
or at some points it's like maybe it's like a quirk that they've kept because
Yeah,
they
yeah.
like how it looked,
yeah, that was what I was going to say. Like it's a choice
and
that
that's
they've
then
made to
consistent through all
not.
their work.
Yeah, even if someone draws their hand as a funny squiggle, maybe they can draw a perfect hand, but they want it to
Yeah.
look like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the joys of it. So
That's it. That's the intentionality behind it. That's lost if someone's like, especially someone who like has no history in drawing or visual arts in any way, and then they suddenly like start using one of the various generative AI things, and they generate a few images, and they're like, I am now equal. I now understand the same. So it's like, well, you haven't developed
yeah.
EI, you haven't developed like a sense of like your own personal taste in the same way, because how could you have? It's not like it's not your expertise. Like it's not like artists are any better than anything else, but it's just this is the one thing that we have trained and practiced ourselves in. And same way, like I would be no good at like, you know, music or singing or public speaking or any of those things. Like they're just different skill sets that you can't just decide one day like, oh, I'm actually great at that now.
Yeah.
Because no, how could you be? Your brain doesn't have the connections or the experience or the you know, ability to kind of tell these little kind of subtle things that someone who has done the work can see.
Yeah. There's no heart in it. That's the way I look at it. Like you're not actually putting your personality and soul into something, you know. And even I would genuinely rather someone like done a wee squiggle on a page and they've thought about it and they've put their energy into it and it's the best that they can physically do and that's it, you know.
It's always way more interesting.
Exactly, yeah, because you can see the wee quirks of their personality in that thing and stuff. And
and there's a vulnerability to it as well. Like that's someone who like they're putting themselves out there, even if they're not, you know, maybe their work isn't where they'd like it to be. Maybe they might be slightly embarrassed or whatever, like we all get sometimes. But that vulnerability is very human. That causes that connection.
Yes, exactly. Like for with the community, like we've had a lot of people join in recently, and a couple of them, they're quite young, and they've said to me things along the lines of, I'm not at the same level as other people, am I still able to join? And I'm like, yes, because we're all human, you know, we all need to learn from each other and make mistakes, and that's the whole point of community to us anyway.
Like that once you realise as well, like there's never an end, there's never a point where you're like, I'm good enough. Like if you ever think that's when you're cooked, that's when you're in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
You're never actually going to be finished learning, and like if you kind of let yourself think that, you start to stagnate and you start to go a bit funny. Like you just have to always keep an open mind.
Yeah, like I was saying, like we're in our 30s. I think all three of us are in our 30s, you know. So, you know,
I'm only 21.
Oh, you're only a wee boy.
I'm only a wee baby.
Yeah, but like, you know, I'm still learning stuff now, and I probably will still be learning until I'm, you know, a very old lady, hopefully. And you know, it is something that I think that is what art is all about, is the journey throughout your life and you putting that into your work. Like you could be doing a funny meme, but it's still your hand is shown in that work, you know, and it's still your story and how the things that have influenced you, movies and whatever, you know, that you've liked, or games in your case throughout your time. Yeah, you know, people that you've met that really bring in you know, that what makes your art. So no, I 100% agree with you in that case. On that subject, if you had to start your creative journey from the beginning, what would your advice be to your younger self?
Very introspective here.
Oh,
it's a big question.
That's an interesting question.
Like, what's a mistake you made at the beginning, do you think, like, to get you started? What can you think of, anything in particular you were like, oh, didn't like that? I wish I didn't waste.
See, I think most of my regrets about my I did 1 year of like portfolio preparation, and then I did 2 years in animation, and I, you know, learned during that 2 years I didn't want to do animation, so I probably would have tried to go into an illustration course instead of doing animation, maybe. But
now you're sure now you don't.
But then again, like a lot of my friends that I have now are true. Like a lot of my like people I know and my buddies are true animation. So like maybe I would have preferred to do it. It's hard to know. I probably would have liked to have had more illustration training and more, because like I had to kind of teach myself a lot of that after the fact, after college. But yeah. Mostly I would have, like, younger, you know, would have told him like, hey, you've got ADHD, you need to go to the doctor and get like help for
that's
that.
It, please get medicated.
Because that would have helped a lot.
There you go. No, I agree with that. Like my personal one would be to do a lot more life drawing, really, and learn sort of form and stuff like that, because I really enjoyed that work and I let it go, you know. So but really I think a lot of people don't have much that they would say to their younger self, you know.
Mine would be, do more before you have your children.
Yeah.
Get your project started, because you won't know.
Yeah. You know, so I think a lot of people don't, you know, like what you've done throughout your career and your life, for me personally, like it all adds up and it makes you who you are, and it's okay to make mistakes. That's something that I would tell my younger self, is that it's okay to mess up sometimes, because you know.
I'd love to give my younger self like a real like a freaker, like, you know, just you stress him out, you know, say something, you know, really
lie about what you're doing,
spike his anxiety. Like, you're doing everything wrong, but not explain what he needs to do.
You're like, Ian, you've caused the apocalypse. Don't do that.
You're the last man alive. Go all Umbrella Academy.
Please go and get medicated, or you're going to cause the apocalypse. You know, but like it is. I think everybody has something that they maybe regret in their career, but that's good. That's interesting. You know, that you would think that about your animation, because I know Lucy does animation. Is that right?
Yeah, she's working remotely at the minute for Lighthouse. She worked on last year she worked on effects for Rick and Morty.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if I can say what she's on now.
Yeah, that's
or
okay.
not.
We'll not do any NDA.
Last year she was doing Rick and Morty anyway.
Cool. Yeah, that's class.
But yeah, she's done a mixture of like video game stuff and TV, and I think she did some feature stuff as well.
Lovely.
Yeah, she worked on My Father's Dragon. That was a feature.
Oh, nice. We'll definitely have to get
Cartoon
Lucy
Saloon.
on at some point and get chatting with her about her experience.
Yeah,
with the
she's a lot
animation.
more. She's a lot more eloquent than I am.
Oh, you're doing great. Don't worry. So with that, then, what would be your dream project if time and budget wasn't an issue?
Oh,
He needs about a week to think about this.
I'd love. I think I'd really like to work on like character design for a fighting game, or I know I'd kind of like to maybe draw for a dating game. Maybe I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be class. I think your work would work really well with that.
And in 3D, I'd like to really focus on, because what I'd love to do is make obviously it wouldn't be like it'd be a little bit more on the expensive side as far as commissions go, but I'd love to
Budget
be able
isn't
to
an issue.
if someone has had like a D&D character for years and they want to have a 3D sculpt, like a painted
that'd be sick.
figurine for their shelf, like I'd love to do that as a commission type.
Yeah.
But I'd need to obviously work a lot harder and because I've been working on painting as well, the models, and I want to get better at that skill set, so I can, because I want to do it like for myself as well, for making these little models. But I just think it'd be cool if you have like a character you've had for years to have this little guy on the shelf that
Funnily
represents
enough.
like, oh, that was that campaign I had.
Yeah, funnily enough, we're actually just sitting looking at Becky's brother does 3D modelling as well, and he made little busts of her D&D character, and I actually think it's such a cool idea. Like, it is really cool.
Yeah, and he
That's
didn't
so cool.
fully paint them either. He just does the, is it zenithal highlights where you spray it black? And
Yeah.
the
You
white.
spray it white on top and
Yeah.
black underneath,
Yeah.
and kind of creates, and then you can do some like speed paints over it.
Yeah.
It looks
Yeah.
really
Or just
cool.
leave it as is.
It kind of
pretty
looks
cool.
like a sculpture, do
Yeah.
you know,
Marble
like
or
a
something.
marble
Yeah, they look
sculpture.
really cool.
It's really cool.
I must send you a picture after. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
It is
Yeah,
class.
definitely, please.
Right, I think what we'll do is we'll go for a wee break for bathroom and drink or whatever you need to do, and then we'll come back and we'll get into the basic income for the artists. Today we are kindly sponsored by ourselves. If you're enjoying what we do here and would like to hear the next episode early, consider subscribing to our Patreon at patreon.com/c/Emerald Isle Artists Collective. That's artists with an S. Or you can check out emeraldisleartists.org for more information about the project. And now, back to the episode.
Before the break, what were we talking about, Aisha?
Yeah, so we were chatting about budgets. So funding is something that can make or break an artist's career at times. You've been an outspoken advocate for the basic income for the arts pilot. That's a hot topic at the moment in Ireland. For those who aren't aware of it, can you sum up the scheme in a few words?
Yeah, it's so the basic income for the arts pilot is a pilot that was started by the Green. It was, I think, initially proposed by the Green Party during the pandemic, I think. But the idea was that it would be a study where 2,000 artists would receive €325 a week for 3 years, and then there was going to be what do you call it, an extra 1,000 in a control group that were getting a one-off payment of, I think, 325 per year. I'm not actually 100%, but they got like a payment, but it wasn't like the weekly payment.
Oh, right, okay.
And then compare and contrast the people who are getting the full payment versus the control group to see the differences and what happened. But the idea was that because the arts, especially during the pandemic, the arts in general are very precarious income-wise.
Yeah.
And the idea was to kind of support artists and see how that went, and if it improved their mental health, it improved their circumstances, it improved the amount of work that they were able to get done, like what were the impacts of it. And I'm one of the 2000s on that at the moment. It'll be ending in February.
Oh, right, okay. So it's ending that soon. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, we don't have it because obviously for those who are listening that are outside Ireland, we've got 2 different governments here who maybe don't know that. So in the north, we have no idea about, the scheme. I only know really from what I've read online and from, the campaign page on Instagram and stuff. It's very interesting to me because it makes a lot of sense. You kind of need to keep the culture of Ireland alive. So it's cool to hear, from somebody who is on this.
Well, that's it. It's like when you look at... if it comes to something like the Olympics or any sort of sport, like most people would be like, yeah, it makes sense that we'd invest in our soccer teams, in our rugby teams, and in our gymnastics. It makes sense that our athletes should be supported to develop. And like the arts is the same. Like it's like during the pandemic, we all relied on our movies and our TV shows and our games and our novels to kind of keep us going. And if we want like Irish art to thrive and continue to thrive, like it needs more support, especially now with the generative AI stuff kind of getting in the way of everything and taking away entry level jobs. Like if that kind of keeps going the way it's been going, and if it keeps taking entry level jobs, and if art continues to be devalued, then the only people who will be able to make art will be people who are already from means, people who have people who are from families that can support them for longer. So people like me wouldn't be able, because like I'm from a working class background. I was raised by a single mother. Like I have no like supports behind me. I have no like that other than I was able to get I got a grant to go through the 2 years of college. And now I'm on this thing now, which helps a lot. But it's. The example I always think of, this is like a slight tangent, but the example I always think of is, the show Seinfeld. Like that probably wouldn't exist if it wasn't for artist supports, because the writer of that, Larry David, lived in a building that had what's the word for it? Like basically it was like cheaper rent for artists and performing artists and writers in New York. And it was just kind of let them live for a little bit, because they understood that art, to develop as an artist, it's precarious income-wise, and sometimes it can be very difficult. And, he got to live in that subsidized housing for a while, and then if he wasn't supported like that, a show that's as legendary in comedy as Seinfeld might not exist.
Yeah. You kind of need to nurture it. You need to water the plant for it to grow, sort of thing.
And then if it's like, on the other hand of things, is if you are forced to go out and do some kind of job that drains you entirely, like whenever we worked at a call centre, you literally had nothing left. You were just sort of surviving every day, doing a job that wore you down emotionally and physically. And
yeah, that's it.
You need to have, be your best to do your best work. But I actually have a wee question about how, what's your review of the scheme, personally, like, how has it helped you? Did you find it helpful?
Oh God, yeah. I think it's. I really can't say enough good about it, because I know it might sound silly. Of course, the argument is like, oh, it's free money for artists to do nothing. But the reality is, whenever similar basic income pilots, not just for basic income for the arts, but basic income pilots in general, like universal basic income pilots. Generally, whenever they're done, people work more. People are more productive doing, maybe they might change careers if it's a universal basic income, but people generally work more. And anyone who I've spoken to who's on this, on the pilot at the minute, they've all done more work than they would have otherwise, because they had, it's not just so you've got the security of the income, so your rent is covered, and that takes away the stress then of like, will I be able to get enough done this month to cover my rent? Will I be able to get enough done this month to be able to afford a Christmas present for like my mother or whatever? Like it's that stress drains you. That kind of constant taking on jobs that maybe you wouldn't otherwise, if it's like not paying enough or maybe not appropriate for what you do, but you have to take it on because you need to make ends meet. And it's not like, artists are ever, living in luxury in the first place. We tend to be very underpaid and work a lot of hours for, like, I absolutely even still work for like less than minimum wage.
Yeah.
Like when you break it down for the hours I put in, obviously, I love it, but I feel like it's the thing that was put here to do. Like I can't really
to do it.
do
I
anything
actually
else.
said before that being an artist or a creative is like.
And I feel like I'm relatively, like, I don't even like saying I'm good at, but like I found an audience for what I do, and I like doing what I do, and it's just a case of like sometimes there's drier periods between, and the basic income really helped during those times when like I needed to make sure I had enough for the rent. And there was also a period where the animation industry can also be a bit funny, and obviously, if me and Lucy are renting, we both usually have income, but there was a period where she was out of work for about 6 months, and when we had the basic income, it meant that because I had that was guaranteed that our rent was covered no matter what.
Yeah.
We had that at the very least, and that sense of security, if we didn't have that, I probably wouldn't have got anything done during that 6 months. I would have been so stressed.
Yeah, you end up sick.
Yeah, so it's just been nothing but that security has done wonders for my mental health. And then obviously because it's funding, like I've been able to buy a lot of art books, I've been able to buy materials like for my paints, I've been able to buy like a lot of that money goes into, like, pretty much all of it goes into the business, into art.
Yeah.
And as much as I can into the local community. Like there's the art shops across the country, like even like the 3D filament I buy, I try to buy from Irish suppliers.
Yeah. You know what
Now,
really
the
helps
printer itself I got from Germany, but like I couldn't get that locally.
No, it's not exactly something that is produced here very much, but it does help the economy when artists are able to thrive and to not be sitting there sick out of their minds worrying about how their bills are going to be paid, or how they're getting food on the table to keep them sustained.
It's soft. It's good for it's good advertising for the country as well. Like if an Irish actor is in an award-winning show or whatever, we're always happy to see them, and it's good if they're on stage talking about Ireland, and same if it's like a musician or anything else, like that helps advertise our tiny little island internationally.
Yeah.
And like all the creative industries bring in a lot of money to the country. Like it pays for itself.
Yeah, and especially
look
with
at Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, and especially with Ireland being on the main stage really at the moment, with like the likes of Cillian Murphy and Andrew Scott, Saoirse Ronan, and a lot of films being made here and that kind of thing. Like if you don't feed your arts industry, it takes all sorts of creatives to make the things that make Ireland famous, I guess, across the world happen.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a case of just like nurturing that talent. Like
Definitely.
sometimes I find like I so up until this year, up until like last November, I didn't do 3D really, and now I can print off. I can design and sculpt something myself, like, and then I can print it off, and then I can paint it, and there's also a lot of sanding involved and all that as well. But like I'm like making my own designs from scratch, from drawing to sculpt, painting, and that's not something I could have done before. And it's like a whole new skill set, a whole new way of expression that I've only learned because I was on this pilot scheme.
Yeah, give you that wee bit
I
of leeway.
literally would not. Like, it's not just the case that I wouldn't be able to do that if I wasn't the pilot scheme. I probably wouldn't still be doing art at all.
Yes,
because
you mentioned that,
especially with the way that the AI stuff is kind of. I know I keep bringing it back up, but it is a massive pressing concern because it has. I used to make most of my income from Etsy, and I found that like the if you do a search for any topic or whatever on Etsy, you're going to find a lot of no effort AI generated slop that's like people are charging nothing for because they didn't make it themselves, so they don't really care.
Or drop shipping.
But that's clogging. And drop shipping, and that all clogs up the search results, so people aren't finding your work anymore. And even like stuff like the commissions, there's a lot of D&D commissions, and even stuff like I used to do drawings for weddings often enough, and jobs like that have just dried up because people who would have paid artists to do that in the past are now using generative AI.
Yeah, it's really
So
sad, isn't
it's harder now. Like, and I'm like more established, so like I can't imagine like if I was like, you know, a couple of years ago version of me trying to get established now as things are would be so much more difficult. So
Yeah.
like, and it's even then like it's, I mean, there's a lot of luck and timing with all that stuff anyway, but like
Absolutely.
it's just feels now more than ever that it's kind of essential that the government kind of helps support our arts, or otherwise the only people who'll be able to do it will be those who have money in the first place, or those who are already established, and that's no good for the country.
Definitely not. And things start to stagnate when it's only the elites that can do that kind of thing, you know.
That's it.
So
it doesn't represent the breadth of the country if it's only the people who are like established. Like, you want to be able to support like all kinds of voices, you know, marginalized voices. Like, it needs to all be able to be supported. And like right now, the basic income as it stands, it costs to fund it each year. It costs about a third of what the government spends on horse racing and greyhound racing.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't even know that.
And I think that the arts is a bit, you know, it generates more for the country than.
Yeah. And
I think it's worth, like, at least, you know, that full amount.
Like the Irish, though, we're known for our storytelling and our music and all these sorts of things, and it's like, it only makes sense to me. But like, how did you get involved with the scheme? You know, what did you have to do?
So,
how did you apply?
So as soon as I heard of it, I think I might have been one of the most, even like back before it got like properly officially announced, I was one of the more engaged with the process. I was like trying to contact TDs to try and find out more once I heard the idea being floated, and then once it got announced it was going to be a thing, I was contacting TDs like, when is it going to actually be, and like most of them don't reply to you, which is funny. I learned that a lot of the TDs, no matter what you, unless you go in, they're just going to ignore you. But yeah, like it had been announced, and then once it officially got announced, there was the date for, okay, here's what you need to do to apply, and let me just check my notes what you needed. So to apply for it, you needed proof of engagement with your art. So you need two of these three things. You needed one to either be a member of a professional organisation, so that would be something like, for me, that was Visual Artists Ireland.
Oh, right, okay.
You could be, if you were a writer, Writers Guild of Ireland. If you were in dance, that's Dance Ireland. There's Actors Equity, if you're an actor. If you're, there was a Musicians Union of Ireland was another one. So like that was one of the ways to prove that someone was engaged with the art, because you can't become a member of any of these groups. Like, they're vetting for the government at that stage. They're vetting to prove that, okay, yeah, this person is a member. So that means they've already done the work to check that this person has proved that they are engaged with the art form. They are at a certain, like, you know, professional level or whatever. Yeah. But if you're not a professional, there was also a avenue if you were like a recent graduate.
Oh, right, okay.
And then if you didn't have a membership of a professional organisation, there was also, you could have these two things, which was proof of engagement with the art form, and then proof of income. So proof of engagement was stuff like, you know, if you could prove, you know, with documentation that you had had your work reviewed in printed or online press, or if you had a published book or credit in a film.
Oh, class.
And then the evidence of your money was that if you had you sent in like invoices that showed, you know, you'd been paid for commissioned work, or you'd been paid by a theatre for your acting or for your music, or a contract. Like, just, you had to have a couple of different things that proved, like, okay, this is someone who's, unless you're a recent graduate, which is a separate thing, and I don't 100% know how that one worked. I think you just have to maybe send in like your diploma or whatever, but I'm not 100% in that, so don't quote me on that one. But they basically, you had to prove that, you know, you were an artist. You couldn't just be like, oh yeah, I'm an artist. And it's like, because that was the thing that people, when they're being dismissive about it, they seem to think that you could just decide one day, oh yeah, I've got some crayons in my back pocket, I'm an artist. So, oh yeah, I sing a song when I'm drunk, I'm an artist. Like, it wasn't that at all. Like, you had there was some things you had to prepare and send in. But,
was it easy enough though?
Yeah, and then once I was, okay, so let me take, there was, so yeah, I think there's 55,000 people where could possibly have applied.
Oh, it was capped.
And 9,000. 9,000 people did apply. 8,200 of them were eligible, and then of that 8,200 eligible people, 2,000 were picked at random.
So
it was just like
it
just
was a
completely
lot
random
more.
at that stage.
Who did you bribe?
That's the way it is.
Well, that gets brought up, but like I don't have, as I said, like I'm working class, single mother. I don't have connect. I was hassling the TDs, and they weren't talking to me.
That's it. They knew your name. They remembered you because
Yeah,
you
it
were
was
like,
completely
hey,
random.
Hey, pay me.
Because it was the arts minister that had like a separate team, and I think they randomized it or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because as far as I've seen, like there hasn't been actually very many people in like our own community, you know, like people that would be maybe connected to the convention scene and stuff, that I've seen that have been, as I mentioned earlier, to you, that haven't been selected for it. So it was very random. You know, there was people from all walks of life that seem to have been.
I knew two people beforehand that ended up getting it. I knew one person that ended up on the control group. I knew two people who actually no, I know a third, because I know I think Aaron got it, but I think he moved to Canada.
Oh, I see.
He's like a comic guy. Until he had to like stop it, or maybe his other half had it. One of them had it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I knew very few people who actually, because I again, like I feel like I was banging the drum trying to tell people to like, you know, apply for it and that like long before it or the deadline was up. But like even now, like sometimes you bring it up, some people have never heard of it before.
Yeah, because I actually was really
I hadn't
surprised
heard about it until Aisha was like, "I'm going to interview. We're going to interview Ian about this thing." I was like, "What's this thing?" I was like, "Oh, that's cool."
What I was saying was because we're in the north, like it's not really something that we would hear about up here. You know, I only know it because I know so many artists on the other side of the border. So, with that, you know, it is very interesting that there was a possibility up to 55,000, but it was such a low number that actually applied for it. Like,
yeah, only 9,000, and only 8,200 of those were eligible. So, like, that means about 800 either just straight up weren't eligible, or maybe sent in the wrong documents. I think we even had time. I think I vaguely remember them contacting people and being like, "Okay, there's extra time if you've forgotten a certain thing," or if we, I think, because they were like super, like, understanding about that.
Yeah,
that's good.
I think there was a lot of people were concerned, you know, because a lot of artists are disabled or on other benefits for other reasons, maybe their parents and stuff like that as well. And I know there was a lot of miscommunication maybe, or maybe just lack of understanding of how it worked in regards to your other benefits and stuff.
Yeah, that was a huge issue. I think that was an issue in general, is that like by setting it at 325 per week, it kind of acknowledged that the amount that they give for like this disability payments and for other social welfare payments isn't enough to live on.
Yeah.
Because it's not like I'm the 325 a week, like that's, you know, great, but like it's not like I'm living in luxury. Like I'm you know, you get by, you pay your bills, you pay for your groceries. You get by, but like it's not like it's a lot. So like there's the people who are on disabilities and that, like they weren't getting enough in the first place. And then that was a problem with this one, is that if some recipients who had been on disability payments had their payments reduced because they were on this, because this counted as an income and it's taxable, it then impacted their disability payments. So like there's definitely like some issues there that would need to be resolved for if it gets continued, and if it gets expanded, there would need to be some changes in that regard.
Interesting. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that maybe feel the same way, you know. And you mentioned about like speaking with TDs and them not getting back to you. How was communication with the government post acceptance? Like, did you have to continue to show your work, or like? No,
so that's the thing. Like, because I'm glad you brought that up, because it gets. So sometimes you see people who are bad faith arguing against it. They often say like it's the government are trying to buy artist votes, which I think is funny, because like, I mean, even though the Greens and Fianna Gael and Fianna Fáil brought this in, I'm still voting against Fianna Fáil, Fianna Gael every goddamn time. I hate them. Like there's we're in the country. That's the point. Or the idea that like it's making state sanctioned artwork. We've never had to send in our work. Now what we do have to do, because it's a study, we've had to do a lot of
surveys.
we have to do a lot of like basically note taking and record keeping, and do these surveys every couple of months to kind of, that's like how they got the data for the study, to see how we're all getting on and the changes over time.
And is it very
so we've had to be
intensive?
pretty on top of that and keep our surveys going, but like, yeah, no, there's no case of like, it's like, you know, the government is like looking at our work and deciding, no, we don't like that. Actually, like, no, that the government has let us onto the scheme because the professional organisations have already vet us.
Yeah.
Or, you know, the other proofs that prove why. And, you know, people have been making more work. People have been reporting that they've had more time for work than ever before, and they've produced more, and they've done shows, and they've engaged with their community, and like, it just seems to be having a really good effect. And I think the problem is people sometimes, when there's something like this, they want to see a concrete result right away, or something that they can measure right away, and that's not how, as you know yourself, like art works and creativity works. Like sometimes it's a journey, it's like a path, and like, you know, supporting some artists for a couple of years will help them develop. And, you know, some of those artists might make the most amazing work in 10 years from now that they wouldn't have made if it wasn't for this bit of support. But like, you're not going to see that result immediately.
Yeah, this is.
It's just like you might have supported them during like a critical time where otherwise they might not have been able to continue, and they might have given up.
Yeah.
And that's what's so important about it to me, I think. Like this, so, and I want to see it like expanded, because, as I said, if it only costs a third of what the government spends on greyhounds and horses, like, it's surely we can afford a bit more to and like, it's not like the thing with the Arts Council where you have to apply and like there's a judgment thing. Like, if the actual professional organisations are vetting people, and if you're able to prove otherwise, no, without that, if you're able to prove like, oh, here's evidence of my work, like, if that's it, kind of, it takes away some of the biases that might be there otherwise, and it helps, you know, artists of all backgrounds a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's nice to see artists like yourself that aren't necessarily maybe working in a big studio, or like, you know, the likes of animators that are working on big projects and stuff like that. That you're just doing your own thing, really, and working on your own stuff. I think Ken's the same. You know, he's working on his stuff too. It's very interesting to see that there is that variety of artists, and that like illustration and stuff's being taken seriously as well. In terms of the like, so when you were saying about like hearing back from artists about it, is that just like from hearsay throughout the community, or do you get updates?
So I ended up getting contacted by a bunch of them because I have been so loud about it, and I think it's important that I wanted to continue and expand that. I think that's part of why you haven't heard of other artists talk about it, is because a lot of people were afraid to talk about it, because they're afraid that and you know, rightly, because like sometimes like there might be like a case of not jealousy is not the right word, but like, you know what I mean, like people might be like, well, why does he have that, he doesn't deserve that, or like, you know, maybe bad faith people might be like, oh, this artist is getting free money for nothing, and you know, they don't want to get targeted.
Yeah.
So a lot of people just were a lot more private about it. I don't think Ken talked about it publicly for a while.
Yeah.
Maybe he did, and I just wasn't paying attention because I'm a big idiot, but yeah, like a lot of people were more kind of quiet about it, but I was loud about it from day one. Like, to the extent that I drew the attention of the the New York Times.
Oh, really?
I was interviewed in the international edition of that.
Okay.
Pretty early on, but just because like I was one of the few people talking about it. So because I was more prominently talking about it back then, and I just want to say for anyone listening, I'm a lot more eloquent in text than I am in speaking. But you know, like, I've been talking about it for a while, and people would like kind of reach out to me saying that they're on it as well, and there was like one or two little groups here and there, like WhatsApp groups or FaceApp groups, where there'd be maybe like 10 to 15 other artists at a time, and I get to chat a little bit with them. So like I haven't been in contact with an awful lot of artists who are on it, but the handful that I have, it's been universally like that. Yeah, that they're doing a lot more work than they would have otherwise. Like more productive than they've ever been. They're happier with this stuff. That they're developing. It's not just like they're not stagnant. They have that bit of extra time to decide, like, okay, well, I can set aside time on Wednesday to do some study, to do some coursework, to do, because, like, you know yourself, when you're working flat out the whole time, if you can't spend some time developing as an artist, developing your craft, you will stagnate and your work will suffer for it. Like, you do need to do that bit of exercise, that bit of homework, and this has given that ability to a lot of people.
Have you had any contact now that it's coming towards the end of it? Like, what does the next few months look like, or like?
So that was a struggle for us, actually, getting any feedback at all from the minister. Since the new minister came in, he's been much less engaged than the previous minister, I'd say. Like, I found it very frustrating emailing to try and find out, like, because initially it was supposed to end this month. August would have been the last one of it.
Oh, really? Okay. And
we were being left, I think it was, maybe it wasn't until July, maybe June, but I think it was July that he finally told us, okay, it'll get extended, because we were left, you know yourself, like,
wow, that's scary.
It's very stressful.
If you're trying to plan ahead for, like, okay, I'm not going to have this payment anymore, you want to know for definite, like, okay, are we definitely not going to have this payment, or is it going to continue? What's happening? Because we knew that the last minister had, before the last government, you know, they had the election and all that, and they changed. She had announced that she'd gotten funding to fund the basic income until December of this year.
Oh, right, okay.
And then when the new guy came in, all he kept saying was, it's ending in August. And we were like, oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, we found it very hard to anyone who contacted him, because we were just getting basically a press release about what the basic income was, which is always frustrating when you're someone who's contacting explicitly as someone who's on the basic income pilot. You don't need to hear the stuff you already know. But then, you know, maybe in July or whatever, they released a video saying that would get extended until February at least, and that I think the idea is that they're running a public consultation right now that anyone can email in, and I think that ends tomorrow.
Oh, right, that's actually mad.
And then whatever the results of that, plus the results of, like, talking to the various, like, stakeholders, professional organisations, as well as I think some of the funding comes from the EU.
Oh yeah.
He's going to bring that to the minister for finance or whoever it is when they're doing the budget, and make the pitch for it then. Now, from what I've heard, the minister for finance is very against it. Like when I say what I've heard, I mean I heard, like, you know, reading the news.
Yeah.
That, like, he's against it. I'm not especially hopeful. I really like it to get expanded. Like, all of the results from the studies have been, this really works, this helps, it will pay off. But you know yourself, like, the current minister isn't someone who's from an arts background in the same way. He took arts out of the department's name. It was the Department for Arts and Culture and everything else, but now it's just the Department of Culture and Sport and I think Media. I think it is.
Right, that's how they're going to get around.
But yeah, I don't know. I'd like to think that he sees what it is, and I'd like to think it's an easy political win for him, because, you know, this is a thing that's, like, pre-established, and all he has to do is kind of continue it and say, like, look what I've done.
Yeah.
But yeah, so hopefully, fingers crossed, it gets continued. You know, we'll find out with the budget in October.
Right.
Hopefully it gets continued and expanded. That's the main thing. Like, it needs to be. There'd be no point just continuing it as is. It would need to be expanded to more artists.
Yeah, definitely.
And obviously, then the conversation needs to be about, you know, people who are on, you know, who have disability payments, and obviously the fact that people on social welfare, like, it's not enough for those payments.
Yeah, maybe it's
and carers as well. Like, there's a lot of, like, people in Ireland who, like, need funding and need help, who aren't getting it.
Yeah, you know, in different communities and stuff. I know, like, the travelling community and stuff like that as well. There was a lot of talk about, you know, whether they were able to expand it to include, you know, other communities and stuff. So that was actually something I wanted to ask you, was, like, was there any other ways that you think that the scheme can be improved if it is expanded?
But yeah, there was a couple of areas where, like, I think for eligibility, I think certain types of crafts people weren't eligible, and I think like people, anyone who's involved with like fashion, so if you were like making patterns, I think you weren't eligible then.
Oh, really? Okay.
Which isn't ideal. Like there's just like some funny little quirks like that. It's like these people are making art too. Like it doesn't really.
They're not art enough.
Make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully it would get expanded in that way, that like there'd be more eligibility.
Yeah.
It sounds like as it stands, like as a basic kind of income as it is, it's been an enormous help. Like it's changed my life.
Yeah.
It's the reason I'm still an artist. The reason I've grown as an artist. It's the reason I've like had some of the opportunities that I've had professionally. It's because of this. And if it continues, and fantastic, because it sure would be nice to be able to continue as an artist when so many of my traditional income streams have been threatened by generative AI at the minute. And I don't know if that'll be a problem forever. I don't think it will. I think that whole thing is just a bubble. But for right now, like for paying bills and living, it would be nice to have that bit of security.
Yeah, you want to be able to plan your life, and as an artist at times I find it's very hard to envisage what the next 5 years is going to be, because things are so up and down. And like there was the NFT bubble and it's burst, thankfully, and then the AI one, it looks like it's going that way, and I hope it does.
It's shrinking slightly.
It's shrinking, yeah.
The buzz is.
I think people have realised, people just don't engage with it as much as possible. Like there are people who do use it for everything, and that's terrifying in terms of mental health and that kind of thing as well. But
it's a whole other rabbit hole.
We're not getting into that on this conversation. But with that, I think just it's with this kind of scheme, it is something that there's still hope there. If they do expand it and make it as something that it is permanent, it means that people can hope and sort of build their careers at some and get that little bit of slack,
it'll pay off for it long term. For just think of all the art that could be made, but if artists who otherwise would never have the support have support, it would pay off over the years. Definitely, for sure,
in dividends. 100%. With me, being someone who is we grew up on the border, so we've kind of had the best of both worlds, with the north and the south. I spent a lot of time as a young person in Dundalk and stuff, and back and forth to Dublin.
Ooh, Dundalk, ooh.
We'll not get into town politics right now, but with that, for me, looking at the scheme, it seems like an amazing thing. But for me, I think my criticism of it, or not criticism, just I guess observation of it, is that from what you said, it seems like there needs to be a bit more communication about it, because if they were allowing 55,000 artists to apply and only so many did, it was such a huge difference in the amount.
I think it was that there was they estimated there was about 55,000 people working in the creative sector. I think they gathered that from maybe the census or something.
Yeah. So
only 9,000 did apply.
I think a lot of people don't know enough about these things because it's maybe not communicated, and I do find governments tend to do that with grants.
It's
and things
probably those who really need it will find out and apply for it to try and minimise the applications.
I think there was probably people who maybe don't have access to communities like our own, or aren't in the con scene, or not working, but that could,
or maybe not online. It was purely true, just being on Twitter at the time that I saw it.
And with Ireland being such a rural place as well, there's places that don't have Wi-Fi or anything like that. They maybe only get their information from going into the local library or whatever. There's different channels that they can communicate it down, and I think that would really help if they do extend it. So fingers all crossed for you. I would love to see it being expanded, and as I said earlier about disabled artists and stuff, I know so many people in our community that would have really benefited from it if they had been able to find their way, to making it more sort of like an easier to understand thing of how it would have affected their benefits and stuff like that, or if it was something that they could transition on to temporarily and stuff like that. So is there anything else at all, just before we move on, that you think people should know about the scheme that we haven't discussed before now?
I guess I think I mentioned it briefly, but just that it is taxable income as well. So
yeah, it's not like you're just giving it for free.
We all have to keep track and like file our Form 11s and that, in October. It's all taxable, and
yeah, it's not.
That was something that some people, I remember when the first time when the tax was due, it was a lot of artists who were on the scheme who were like suddenly panicked because like, what does that mean? Like, hang on now, you should know this by now. But yeah, no, it is like you need to be able to do that part of stuff, or at least have a accountant.
Yeah, it would maybe be something that that the scheme should maybe advise of that as well.
Oh, they do. They gave us them some. They do a workshop once a year to kind of.
Oh, brilliant!
Show people how to do it. Yeah, like especially before, like when it was the previous minister, there was a lot more outreach, a lot more like contacting us about different courses we could do for like mental health, as in art and that kind of thing, or like how to do your taxes. I think the communication did dry up a bit when the new fellow took over, but obviously he had a new job to start and to a lot of new responsibilities. So
yeah.
Obviously does that take into account, but there definitely was a bit of a gap in communication, and I'd like to see the communication improve if at all possible, just for helping kind of people make the most of it and make it the most effective thing it can be.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I was just wondering, in your gut, like, what do you think's going to happen? Like,
I my brain says my brain has me a little bit more skeptical, but my gut is always more optimistic. I'm optimistic by nature,
opposite of me,
and hopeful by nature. So I my gut says it'll continue and hopefully be expanded, but my head is just skeptical of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael.
Yes, I think that's understandable given their track record, but it's something that it's good to hear that you are hopeful about it, because
it's great, and it's so lovely hearing like how much it's benefited you, and that you're
able to the idea of it continuing. Like, imagine 10 years from now if this continues and expands, and ideally across the whole island.
Yeah.
If this continued and expanded across the whole island, imagine 10 years from now the art, the music, the actors that otherwise wouldn't have had a chance.
Yeah, exactly.
That would get
the next Cillian Murphy.
And it would be fantastic. Like, the next Cillian Murphy, the next Colin Farrell, the next U2, because we all love the very modern, fresh band U2.
There's people from working class backgrounds, like Barry Keoghan, I think that's how you pronounce his surname.
Yeah.
He came from a working class background, and schemes like this would really help. Take those little hidden gems that are maybe living in an estate somewhere, or in the centre of a city, in Ireland, that maybe there's no schemes in their area that are going to help young actors or artists or musicians or writers. I know that there's authors on the scheme as well. And often there is like things that there is some support, but they can be quite hard to avail of. Like even if it's sometimes getting the different grants and that they can be very
there's lots
bureaucracy, sludgy, kind of like just difficult to approach when you're from a working class background.
Absolutely.
Sometimes people you have to deal with aren't they can be maybe judgmental if you have a certain accent or whatever. So
yeah, I get that.
It's not ideal.
It's the same up here as well. Trying to apply for things when you come from a working class background that maybe you've never heard of these schemes before, or like your family has never been exposed to that industry because they're all working on factory jobs or whatever.
Yeah, no guidance.
Yeah, it's nice to see that maybe if this works well, and in 10 years time, there could be other schemes like for younger people to get them, more things that could lead on from this. I hope that that's the way it goes as well. So hopefully. It's good to hear that you are hopeful about it, and as I said, we've got our fingers crossed for you anyway. So to wrap things up, Ian, we've nattered in your ears for a good long time now. So to wrap things up, we have a wee question that we want to ask all of our guests, with yourself being the first one. So just to swing it back round to another positive note, what's something that's bringing you a bit of peace or joy in your life at the moment?
Our cat Squee.
Oh, Squee's the cutest.
Cats are always good.
Is just the daily. I know, just I find my life is enriched by her presence. Like, she's 20 years old, and I'm just very grateful that she's still around and she's still healthy.
Yeah.
That every day that, like, I find that she's, you know, her little personality quirk kind of show more. But I feel like, you know, I spend my day making sure that we're treating it as her retirement.
Yeah.
Because we know that one day she will pass, and I don't want to ever feel sad that, you know.
Yeah, you're doing right by her.
You know, she wasn't happy. Like, we're giving her the best little cat life that she can have, and I find it very rewarding. And she just sits on the, like, so Lucy's working from home beside me, and there's a bed on her desk, and Squee will sit there, or I have a little kind of metal trolley that I used to keep art reference books and stuff on, but Squee has commandeered that, so I have to start putting her one of her blankets on top of that, and sometimes she'll be asleep there. Sometimes she'll just be out and out attacking me. Like, she never, like, bite or, like, scratch, but, like, in terms of, like, you know, she'll just come over and she'll just, like, tapping me, or, like, you know, putting her paw on me, or, like, tapping my head because she wants me to go out to the kitchen and get her some ham.
Yeah.
But like, she's she brings a lot of joy to my life. And obviously, as well, goes I say my other half, Lucy, because I really value being able to work with her and get her feedback. And I mean, I think drawing was one of the things that brought us together when we were, like, kids. Like, we met like, I'm currently living in Lucy's house, her family home. We met like a couple of meters down the road. My art teacher lives down the road from here, from secondary school, and we met. She did, like, an art camp during the summer. And that's where me and Lucy met, like, when we were, like, 12 or 13. So it was through drawing that me and her became friends in the first place, and I get to still do art with her today is just couldn't ask for more than that.
That's
sweet.
so cute.
It is.
That's really lovely to hear. You know, and it's nice, you know, to have a creative life together and have your wee cat, and you know,
Sounds very picturesque.
I know it does. That's like the perfect, you know.
Also, just, like, you know, making people mad online is fantastic. That's what gives me life. Oh my god,
from the
that Watto thing over the weekend. Oh, that was wonderful. That gave me added 5 years to my life.
You said, yes, this fuels me.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you so much for speaking with us and being our first guest.
No bother at all.
Before we let
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. We'll probably have you on, God knows, some other time if you've got something mad coming
Something
up.
passionate to talk about.
Yeah, we'll get in and we'll natter at you anyway. And as I said, we'd love to have Lucy on at some stage to talk about the animation side of things as well. So before we let you go, will you tell the audience where they can find you online and any projects you have going on at the moment that you'd want them to look out for?
I wouldn't subject your audience to that. If they want to look me up, they can just search Ian Fay art. I'm not giving them any exact addresses or anything, because I feel like that's my audience on Blue Sky is regularly punished by, you know, terrible drawings and stuff about Vaporia, and I'm not going to put that on anyone directly, but if they want to search for me, it's IANFAYART. You'll find me somewhere with that. And I think it might just be Ian Fay on Blue Sky. Yeah. But look for me at your own peril. It's not my fault.
Anyone who wants to know, we will have him linked to all his socials in our show notes and things. So
it's their fault, but you see.
Yes, they'll also be able.
Can't be mad at me.
They'll also be able to see some of your work in the print version of this interview as well in our zine, which we'll have links to as well. So, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. It's lovely speaking with you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Grá-phite is brought to you by the Emerald Isle Artists Collective. This podcast is about people like you. Folks making art, telling stories and figuring it out with gra and grit.
Share the episode, leave a review, and if you want to share your thoughts or your work, give us a shout at info@emeraldartists.org. Thanks for listening to Grá-phite. Goodbye for now.
Slán!